Hello dear learners, welcome to the second video of Module 18 of Economic and Communities from the MOOCs course on Heritage Tourism. In this lecture, we will focus on community engagement models as a key framework for understanding the economic relationship between heritage tourism and local communities. This video will examine how the community-based tourism model places local communities at the center of heritage tourism planning, management and benefit sharing, and how this approach enhances local economic development, reduces income leakage and promotes sustainable use of cultural and natural heritage. Through this discussion, we will understand the economic impact of heritage tourism when communities act as owner, decision maker and primary beneficiaries. So let us first understand the concept of community engagement. So what is community engagement? Well, there are almost as many definitions out there as there are people trying to define it. In its simplest term, community engagement seeks to better engage the community to achieve long-term and sustainable outcomes, processes, relationship, discourses, decision-making or implementation. To be successful, it must encompass strategies and processes that are sensitive to the community context in which it occurs. Engagement is not generally driven by a model so much as by a framework or guiding principles, strategies, and approaches. This framework is based on principles that repeats the right of all community members to be informed, consulted, involved, and empowered. Community engagement employs a range of tools and strategies to ensure success. It also places a premium on fostering and enhancing trust as a critical element in long-term sustainable engagement and effective governance. The word community is also a broad term used to define a group of people, whether they are stakeholders, interest groups, or citizen groups. A community may be a geographical location, that is community of place, a community of similar interest, that is community of practice, or a community of affiliation or identity, such as an industry or sporting club. Community engagement is therefore a strategic process with the specific purpose of working with identified group of people, whether they are connected by geographic location, special interest, or affiliation, to identify and address issues affecting their well-being. The linking of the term community to engagement serves to broaden the scope, shifting the focus from individual to the collective, with the associated implications for inclusiveness to ensure consideration is made of the diversity that exists within any community. Community engagement can be complex and labor-intensive and requires dedicated resources such as time, funding, and people with the necessary skills. Citizens and leaders in the communities across the United States and indeed in many parts of the world are struggling to make right choices for the communities and issues they address. Building and implementing effective strategies requires a solid grounding in the best tools, techniques, and information available. There are some global heritage management models for sustainable community tourism development. Let us briefly discuss them. Number one is Australian Heritage Council model, AHC model. The AHC model is an Australian framework that emphasizes heritage value assessment and community involvement in identifying, preserving, and managing heritage places. It is grounded in the idea that local communities hold essential knowledge about the cultural significances of site, and therefore their participation is central to the process of heritage management. The model adopts a risk management approach, meaning that it identifies potential threats to heritage such as environmental damage, inappropriate development, or cultural loss, and develops strategies to reduce this risk. While the model promotes community inclusion and public participation, its use of advanced digital technologies remain limited. It is particularly relevant to cultural tourism because it helps communities articulate the unique cultural values of their landscape, buildings, and traditions. The AHC model is practical and widely recognized in Australia, although it depends heavily on the availability of institutional resources and leadership support. The second one is Australia-New Zealand Environment and Conservation Council model. The Australia-New Zealand Environment and Conservation Council model is a joint Australia-New Zealand approach that treats heritage management primarily as an environmental and ecological responsibility. It places strong emphasis on natural heritage, conservation planning, and environmental stability. In this model, ecological integrity, biodiversity protection, and climate responsibility are viewed as central components of heritage work. Unlike the AHC model, which is more focused on cultural heritage, the Australian New Zealand Environmental and Conservation Council model integrates indigenous environmental knowledge as a core aspect of heritage management. Indigenous communities become active contributors through their traditional land use practices, ecological understanding, and spiritual connections to place. The model relies on tools such as GIS and environmental monitoring systems to guide decision making. Although it supports community involvement, it is clearly oriented towards ecological management and sustainable natural tourism rather than cultural tourism. The Australia-New Zealand Environmental and Conservation Council model is strong in sustainability principles, but sometimes less detailed in its cultural or socio-economic components. The next one is European Union Heritage Management Model. European heritage management is shaped by several interconnected frameworks, the most influential being the Faro Convention, the European Heritage Label, the Creative Europe Programme, and the Sophia projects. Taken together, these initiatives represent the broader EU heritage management model. This model sees heritage not simply as old monuments but as a living resource connected to identity, social cohesion, creativity, and community development. It strongly encourages public participation, arguing that every community has a right to heritage and a responsibility to protect it. European model also places great importance on intangible heritage such as local traditions, oral histories, craft skill, and cultural expansions. These frameworks promotes cross-border cooperation and community engagement through education, citizen science program, volunteering, and heritage awareness campaign. One of their major strengths is their effective use of digital technologies, including 3D documentation, GIS mapping, digitization of collections, and virtual storytelling to enhance heritage interpretation and accessibility. Although these models are highly developed, they can be complex to implement because they rely on multi-level governance, extensive documentation, and strict administrative procedures. The next one is Community-Centric Heritage Sustainability Model. The Community-Centric Heritage Sustainable Model, CCHSM, is the new model proposed within the article to address the limitations of existing global model and to create a more locally adaptable, community-driven approach to heritage management. It is built on the idea that sustainable tourism and heritage preservations are only possible when communities are positioned at the center of the decision making. The model views local residents not as stakeholders on the side, but as a primary custodians and interpreters of their heritage. It integrates several important elements, that is participatory governance, multi-sector collaboration, traditional knowledge, sustainable tourism planning, and modern technological tools such as GIS and 3D modeling. The CCHSM encourages communities to take leadership role in identifying heritage assets, planning heritage-based tourism, managing visitors' flow, and using tourism revenues to reinvest in conservation. It also promotes coordination between local authorities, NGOs, experts, and the private sector, while ensuring that communities retain control over how their heritage is presented and used. This model aims to strengthen local capacity, social cohesion, and long-term economic sustainability. It is designed to be flexible and scalable, making it suitable for diverse heritage environment from small rural villages to large cultural landscapes. Let us discuss the role of the local community in community-based tourism model. Community-based tourism is a sustainable and inclusive tourism approach that places local communities at the heart of tourism planning, development, management, and benefits sharing. Unlike conventional mass tourism, which is often dominated by external investors and results in economic leakage, environmental degradation, and cultural commodification, community-based tourism seeks to empower local residents to own, control, and manage tourism activities. By doing so, it ensures that economic benefits remain with the community while cultural heritage and natural resources are protected and used responsibly. The community-based tourism model recognizes that communities are not merely service providers but are custodians of heritage and long-term stakeholders in tourism development. At the core of the community-based tourism model, local communities act as central decision makers, shifting from passive recipients of tourism development to active protagonists. Communities play a decisive role in tourism planning and governance by determining the type, scale, and pace of tourism that best align with their local values, culture, traditions, and environmental capacities. Through participatory decision-making mechanisms such as village committees, cooperatives, or local council, communities establish rules regarding visitors' behavior, resource use, pricing, and benefit distribution. This participatory governance structure fosters a strong sense of ownership and prevents domination by external tour operators, investors, or government agencies. The local community is also deeply involved in the operational aspect of tourism under the community-based tourism model. In community-based tourism model, community members provide a wide range of tourism services, including homestay, guided village and nature tours, cultural performances, traditional cuisines, handicraft productions, and transport services. In many community-based tourism destinations, residents serve as hosts, interpreters of cultural and entrepreneurs, offering visitors authentic experience rooted in everyday community life. This direct involvement not only enhanced visitor satisfaction but also strengthened the community's control over how their culture and environment are represented and consumed by tourists. Another crucial role of the local community in community-based tourism is as primary economic beneficiaries of tourism activities. Unlike mass tourism model, where profits often flow to external business, community-based tourism ensures equitable distribution of income through community funds, cooperative, self-help groups, or direct household earnings. Tourism revenue contributes to poverty reduction, employment generation, and local infrastructure development such as roads, sanitation facilities, schools, and community centers. In many cases, a portion of tourism income is collectively reinvested into conservation initiatives and social welfare programs, reinforcing the long-term sustainability of tourism development. Local communities also act as cultural and environmental agents with the community-based tourism framework. Since residents have lived in the area for generations and depends on local resources for their livelihoods, they have a strong incentive to protect cultural traditions, social practices, and natural ecosystems. Cultural festivals, rituals, crafts, and oral traditions are shared with tourists in a controlled and respectful manner, reducing the risk of cultural erosion. At the same time, communities adopt eco-friendly practices such as waste management, limits on number of visitors, conservation of forest and wildlife, and sustainable use of water resources. This stewardship role ensures that tourism development does not compromise the ecological or cultural integrity of the destination. The community-based tourism model further emphasizes capacity building and empowerment of local communities. Active participation in tourism enhances skills related to hospitality management, entrepreneurship, financial planning, marketing, environmental conservation, and intercultural communication. Special attention is often given to empowering marginalized groups such as women, youth, and indigenous populations, enabling them to participate meaningfully in tourism enterprises and decision-making process. Over time, this capacity building process strengthens self-reliance, confidence, and social capital within the community. The involvement of local community in community-based tourism generates multiple economic, social, environmental, and cultural benefits. Economically, the direct income from tourism helps reduce poverty, diversify livelihoods, and reduce dependence on agriculture or seasonal employment. Socially, community-based tourism strengthens community cohesion, collective responsibility, cultural pride, and social inclusion. Environmentally, community-led tourism encourages conservation-oriented practices and sustainable resource management. Culturally, community-based tourism revitalizes traditions by transforming them into valued assets that are preserved and transmitted across generations through responsible sharing. Practical examples from different countries illustrate these communities' roles clearly. In Thailand, villages such as Mae Kapong have successfully implemented community-based tourism by allowing villagers to collectively manage homestay, trekking routes, and cultural performances. Profits from tourism are reinvested into forest conservation, education, and village infrastructure. In Bali, Indonesia, traditional village institutions maintain cultural autonomy while integrating rituals, dance performance, and temple tourism into a self-governed tourism system. Similarly, in Vietnam and Nepal, ethnic minority communities host tourists in homestays, lead village tours, and share traditional knowledge, thereby preserving cultural heritage while improving household incomes. In India, community-based tourism has emerged as an important tool for inclusive development, heritage conservation, and sustainable livelihood, particularly in rural, tribal, hill, and ecologically sensitive regions. Given India's cultural diversity and strong community institutions, community-based tourism initiatives often rely heavily on local participations, traditionally governed system, and indigenous knowledge. In Sikkim, community-based tourism is strongly driven by village communities through homestay tourism. Local residents own and operate homestays, prepare traditional meals, guide tourists on natural walks, and interpret local cultures and monasteries. Village tourism committees regulate tourist number, set uniform prices, and ensure environmental standards such as waste segregation and ban on plastic. Revenue generated through homestay directly supports household income, while community funds are used for village infrastructure, cleanliness drive, and cultural festivals. This community-led model has helped preserve Sikkim's traditions while preventing the negative impact of mass tourism. In Meghalaya, especially in villages like Mawlyngnaung and surrounding Khasi settlements, community institutions such as Dorbarsung, that is village council, play a central role in tourism governance. The community collectively decides tourism rules, manage entry fee, and oversee cleanliness and conservation initiatives. Local residents act as guide, run homestays, sell local handicrafts, and manage eco trails and viewpoints. Tourism income is reinvested into community welfare activities, including road maintenance, sanitation, and education, reinforcing collective ownership and social cohesion. In Ladakh, community-based tourism initiatives emphasize cultural preservation and environmental sustainability in a fragile mountain ecosystem. Villagers manage homestays, operate small guest houses, and offer guided cultural and trekking experience rooted in Buddhist traditions and local lifestyles. Community groups and cooperatives regulate tourism activities to prevent overuse of water resources and cultural commodification. Women plays a significant role by managing homestays and producing traditional food items and handicrafts, thereby enhancing gender empowerment and household income. In Kerala, responsible tourism initiatives strongly reflect community-based tourism principles. Local self-government institutions, neighborhood groups, women's collectives, and farmer groups supply tourism enterprises with local foods, crafts, and services. Communities participate in destination planning, cultural performance, and environmental management. Tourism revenue supports micro enterprises and strengthens local supply chains, ensuring minimal economic leakages while enhancing community resilience. In Rajasthan, particularly in tribal and rural areas such as Bishnoi villages and parts of Udaipur district, community-based tourism projects involve communities in wildlife conservation, handicraft productions, folk music, and traditional lifestyle tourism. Local guide interpret desert ecology, community manage conservation practices, and cultural traditions for visitors. Community consent is central to tourism development, and income from tourism supports education, water conservation, and preservation of traditional crafts. In Assam and Northeast, community-based ecotourism initiatives around Kaziranga, Majuli and rural riverine areas involve local villagers as homestay operators, boat guides, cultural performers and conservation volunteers. In Majuli, for example, local community preserve New Vaishnavite culture by hosting tourists in traditional homes, organizing satra performances and maintaining cultural landscape. Community involvement ensures that tourism respects religion practices and fragile ecosystem while providing alternative livelihood. So with this we'll conclude this session. Thank you for watching.